Nicola Beer is a certified relationship counsellor, hypnotherapist, and host of the Successful Relationship Revival podcast. With over 20 years' experience, she specialises in sexual wellness, affair recovery, and helping couples rebuild emotional and physical intimacy. Her unique approach blends therapy and coaching, using hypnotherapy, communication tools, and practical exercises to restore trust, desire, and connection. Nicola's programs, including Sex Revitalized, support individuals and couples in overcoming anxiety, shame, and intimacy blocks with compassion and clarity. Through a podcast, online resource, and private sessions, Nicola has helped thousands worldwide transform their relationships from the inside out. Thank you very much for joining us today. From what I thought would be Dubai, but actually it's Thailand, which we can come on to in a second. But I guess my first question has to be really, what were your formative years like? What was it like for you when you were sort of a late stage teen? Can you draw a link from the person you were there to what you ended up doing today?
Sure. So as a teenager, I was quite shy, had a lot of low self-esteem. So my parents' relationship was quite volatile when I was growing up. And my mother suffered with depression and was generally unwell. So that came out on us children. So she was physically abusive, emotionally abusive. So my childhood years were not good. And I don't have a lot of happy memories. And I think that obviously affected my my intimacy and how I felt in relationships, because I had a lot of trust issues. I found it difficult to connect. And I also was shy, so that was how my sort of teenage years were. And then as I started to get older, entered the dating kind of world, again, I, used to be attracted to people that weren't very kind, quite the narcissistic traits. And so I had to do a lot of work. I did a lot of trauma work. I did a lot of counseling. And slowly, bit by bit, I started to heal these areas. And the intimacy side was something that I really needed to grow in myself. So once I started on that journey, I realized there's a lot of other people that are struggling, whether that's with emotional intimacy, expressing their emotions, allowing people to get close to them, or with the physical intimacy, sometimes feeling blocked, not feeling safe, not being able to relax or let go. So because of my own journey, it really made me want to help others, to show actually it's possible to heal, the blocks that you may have.
That's a hard start in life, and it's interesting when I talk to people, how many people have had a difficult experience, difficult childhood, teenage years, and then feel this urge and need to help other people. And I guess coming in it through a lived experience does make what you're doing much more authentic. You never want somebody to go through something like that, but I guess if somebody has gone through something like that, then to use that to help other people is such a good thing to do. And did you find it was a natural steer to focus on the sort of intimacy, relationship type thing, as opposed to more, I don't know what the right word is, more sort of standard therapy?
So I guess I knew that I really wanted to help people deeply, and I kept attracting people struggling with intimacy and relationship problems. And because myself knew that that's the area that I need to grow in most, I was fascinated by it. So that when I started, learning more and reading more, and I thought this is an area that I feel passionate about, because we're not taught any of this in school. We're not taught how to communicate when things are difficult. We're not taught how to keep a relationship alive. There's like nothing like that. So I just felt like this is what I needed. So I'm sure other people, needed it. And so that's how it kind of ended up. And then when I started doing the relationship work, I kept attracting a lot of people struggling with affair recovery, and affairs happen, someone's cheated, and then the person's, really struggling to get over it. The other person doesn't understand why they've done it when they love their partner, and they don't understand their pattern. So I started really going into that and realizing that a lot of that is connected to childhood trauma as well. Why people cheat, because the low self-esteem, that need for validation, that need for attention, that need to prove that you're desired or wanted was often a common pattern. And often the reason that people were struggling to get over being cheated on was because it was bringing up old wounds of not being seen, not being given attention, maybe feeling abandoned or rejected. So yeah, so I kind of fell into those two areas, and those two areas now is, you know, the majority of my work.
How do you help people when they come to you? Like say one of them has found out that their partner's been cheating on them, and the partner's admitted it, and maybe they want to stay together. How hard is it to help somebody? Well, I guess both of them overcome it, because like I say, in one way, one person's cheated for lots of reasons. It's not just for having sex with somebody else, it's for lots of deep-seated reasons. The other person feels betrayed and shocked, I guess, and can't believe something's happened. How hard is it to get past that and to then maintain a healthy relationship?
So it can be difficult, but it's not impossible. And most of the couples that do come to see me, they want to make it work, and they do succeed in making it work. There's lots of steps that need to happen. First of all, the cheater, the person that's cheated, really needs to want to understand why, to get to the root of it, to understand it, not to just say, oh, it was a mistake, I'm sorry, and move on. They need to look at, okay, what was pulling them to it? What was it? You know, often it's an escape pattern, or it's a self-esteem need, or, you know, really look at that so that their partner can trust them and say, okay, you've understood really why, and hopefully then have solutions to, okay, if you need that attention, how to get attention in healthy ways, or how to build your self-esteem in healthy ways through other means. So first of all, that the cheater needs to do that. They obviously need to own and take responsibility and not blame circumstances or other people, and to really just be present for their healing journey. They really need to support them. Sometimes the cheater might go into their own depression, feel really bad, and then from that low negative place, they can't really help their partner. So they need to be strong, consistent. And it's a weird situation, because nowhere else in life do we need to help heal from the person that's hurt us. But in a fair recovery, it's unique. So that's really what the cheater has to do, patient, and also to full disclosure. Often when couples come to me, there's been an extra trauma because they've told them half truths. They've told them a little bit of the story. They've minimized it. They'll say, oh, it was 2 months. Then it comes out it was 8 months, or things like that. So if you can be honest from the start, that really helps, you know, as well. And then for the person that's been betrayed, it's really helping them to heal anything that it's triggered. So like I mentioned earlier, it can bring up, okay, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, and heal that. And then also to get over the grief, because it's the loss of how you thought your relationship was, how you thought that your love was. It can shatter a lot of your dreams and hopes. So working through that, and then creating a new relationship. It's not about trying to go back and get things back to how they were. It's building a new relationship, hopefully with more honesty, more openness, more connection, more communication. And couples do find that actually it can be a gift, because they really communicate and they're really emotionally close like they've never been before once they go through that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, about being a new relationship rather than trying to go back. Because I guess it makes sense, because if you're trying to go back, you're going back to something that wasn't working. So why would you do that? You want to go forward. And you said, I think what's probably the key word in all of this is the communication word. And I think I think often when you're in a relationship, and it might be for, depending who you are, it could be for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You find yourself communicating about just general stuff. Have you put the bins out? What's for dinner? Have you taken Alexander to school today? Whatever. And you don't have those conversations about intimacy and feelings and what's different today than what it was like when I was 20, and which there's a lot of things, I guess. So how do how do you advise couples or individuals to be better and deeper communicators?
So I think every day it's important to have, a 15, 20-minute emotional connection conversation, just so that's a start. So, how are you feeling? How was your day? How are you? Really looking at each other in the eyes, ideally holding each other as well, because we can be so busy. We can get in from work, put our head in the fridge, just carry on. Are you okay? And just carry on with the day. And so it's really stopping and pausing and checking how you both are. Then you're going to be able to know, okay, they need me today. They need to talk through this. This has happened for them. They're feeling like this. And that gives space. So it's giving space on a daily basis is really important. And then having time, I recommend having like a monthly review of the relationship. So a relationship meeting every month could be, on your wedding anniversary day, or, the 1st of the month, 15th of the month, whatever it is, and saying, right, let's review what's gone really well for you this month. How are you feeling about the relationship? What's the positives? And then anything you would like each other to work on, or anything that you don't feel has been resolved that you'd like to discuss. And having a set time every month can help people to really be ready for it, because sometimes communication breaks down where one person's like, right, I really want to talk through all of these issues or these challenges. And the other person's like, I'm too tired. I wasn't expecting this. I don't want to talk about it. And that can also happen when couples go out on a date night. One person's really looking forward to it, or they're both really looking forward to it, hopefully. And then one person's like, I'm going to use this date night opportunity to tell you everything I'm not happy about. And the other person feels blindsided again, because they're like, well, I came for fun and now you're ruining their mood. And so you need to agree, okay, we're on a date night tonight. It's going to be fun and lighthearted. We're not going to have any deep conversations. And then a time where we're like, right, we will talk about things that we need to talk about.
Do you do that personally? Do you do the sort of the daily check-in and the monthly review?
So my partner doesn't like to do the monthly review, so I don't call it that, but I do.
No. It's supposed to be like HR, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I do make sure that, like, I'm like, right, how do you feel about this? Do you think this has gone well? Sometimes I do ask a lot of questions. Do you feel we're closer? Things like that. I just get them in. But yeah, every day we hug each other and tell each other like what we're thinking, what we're feeling. I'm lucky that he works with me, so he's in the house, so I can at lunchtime as well, or anytime if I feel okay, I've had a difficult call, or I want to share something, I can go and do that. So that's quite lucky.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess it's one of the perks, or one of the challenges of being in a relationship with a sex therapist. You're not going to get away with hiding your feelings and not communicating. And I totally hear what you're saying about the sort of blind side of somebody, because I think a lot of times and talk about me, I guess, a lot of times I sort of have something in my head and it builds up, and I've been thinking about it for a week, 2 weeks, 6 months, or whatever. I think, oh, I'm right. And then suddenly I'll sort of burst out with, oh, that thing you've always done where you nib my ears. I've always hated that. I was like, what? And the other person is so sort of shocked, and rather than saying it in a calm manner when somebody's expecting it, because I guess the person can feel attacked if you just suddenly come out with these things that you don't like, because you don't necessarily come out with, I know that thing we've done for the last 5 years, I really love that, I want to do more of that. You tend to come out with the negative things. So I like the idea of a sort of check-in. It feels very sensible. And we do it with our kids when they come out of school. We sort of talk to them, hopefully, and they'll sort of tell us what they've been going on. And they do it with our colleagues at work. We do reviews and things, but maybe in our most important relationship with a partner, we just don't really. Things just get away from us, and we don't do it.
And that's one of the important things as well that you mentioned there, because if you get that defensive reaction, that's when couples don't really listen to each other. When you feel attacked, then you're not going to listen. You're going to defend yourself. You're going to attack back, and then no one's really listening, and you can't get anywhere if you've got that pattern of defensiveness when you're having talks.
What made you develop the Sex Revitalized program, and what are the key stages to helping rebuild intimacy in the program?
So the key stages is focusing on the emotional intimacy as a start, as a foundation. most times when couples come to me with sexual challenges, there's always a disconnect. The couple aren't connecting. There's not enough time for the couple. So we look at the emotional connection, how to rebuild that. We look at, okay, is there enough time and space for intimacy? And often I find the biggest block in the sexual, physical intimacy side is often resentment. So holding on to some kind of anger, some kind of grudge towards the other person, a sense of unfairness in some area of life or something they're doing or not doing. And that needs to be addressed. And often what happens is couples, they have a big argument or a disagreement, and then they may ignore each other for a short period of time, and then it blows over, and then they're close again, but nothing really gets addressed. And this is often those things then just build up and build up. And then it comes out in the intimacy. People don't feel that they can let go as much, or they don't feel as inclined because they don't realize that they've been carrying a lot of resentment. So first of all, we look at that. And then the second area is then how to enhance the intimacy. We can all be creatures of habits, and we can get into a routine that can be a little bit dull or boring if we don't change it, if we don't educate ourselves in learning more. One of the things that I often find is that one person is quite sexually open, wants to try new things, wants to explore. Their mind is open. They've been exposed to different things through their own research or through experience. And the other person is more closed. And that other person, often they assume that it will just happen. They'll just have these ideas to be more interesting or to do new things, but they don't actually go out and read books or watch things or educate themselves sexually. So we look at that, sexual education, finding things that you want to enjoy. Because sometimes I have people that will say, well, I want my partner to teach me. I want them to show me. Whereas that's not really sexy. If a person's having to show you or to do things or to always take the lead, what most people want when it comes to physical intimacy is their partner to be really into it, really into them, really passionate and confident. We want that confidence and that passion, and you can't teach someone how to do that. So that's why it's important to do, to work with a couple individually on that side. And I realized, like myself, so I told you a little bit about my childhood. When kissing came on the TV when I was young, my parents used to be like, cover your eyes, turn off the TV. They would change the channel, even just a small amount of nudity. It was like, so you got the message that sex is shameful.
Yes.
And so I had a lot of low confidence. And that's why, again, I was attracted to this area. I think you're attracted to what you struggle with, really.
Yeah.
And I knew, I was in a relationship in my 20s with another British guy. And we both found it really difficult to talk about sex, and I thought, this is not normal. And then other nationalities, from Holland or Germany, and it's easy. But talking about sex is like having a cup of coffee. What flavor coffee? What type of coffee do you want? And so I thought, right, I really need to grow in this area. So this is another area that a reason why I created it, because I saw people lacking that confidence, and like me, expecting that I'm just going to grow my sexual confidence just by practice. But you don't. You need to also learn. And one of the ladies that was teaching me trauma therapy, she did these sacred sexuality courses. And so I went on that, and then I was her sort of assistant on a few more of them, and I really learned a lot there. And I really realized that you need to, like any area in life, if you want to get good at it, if you want to enhance your sex life, revitalize your sex life, you need to focus on the sex as well. You need to learn things and be passionate about it and be interested in it. It's not going to just happen, just say, okay, well, let's just go on a date night. That doesn't work for a lot of people. You need to do a lot more than that. The emotional, and then the interest and the passion. Yeah,
there's a lot there. It's I totally hear you about the resentment thing. I never necessarily thought of it in that terms, but I'm very much a have an argument, go off, come back, do you want to talk about it? No. And then move on. And like I say, all those little things are building up inside you, I guess, until at some point you can't keep them inside anymore. But I do, and I think one of the reasons I started doing this, because I've got a 15-year-old son and an 18-year-old daughter. And I remember the sex education I had at school, which was very much around safe sex. It was around, don't get an STI. It was around pretty much, trying to avoid these things, really. And then talking to my children, I said, what's it like now? And I said, well, yeah, that sounds pretty much like what ours is like. So what do you want to talk about? Intimacy and relationships and different types of sexuality and things. And they talk a bit more about consent now, which is great. We didn't talk about that when I was growing up. You're supposed to know it. So it's so sad that, well, I think there's two things we don't talk about in the UK in particular, is sex and money, both of which are quite important in relationships. And I think if you go into a relationship and you don't have any knowledge and things, and I think one of the biggest challenges, it'll sound silly, is that we are sometimes quite mature before we are comfortable exploring our own bodies. And you sort of think, well, it's there. But like you say, if something on the TV and it's kissing, and your parents sort of turn the TV over, if I sort of was 3 or 4 and had my hands in my pants, just being curious, my parents slap my hands away and say it's dirty. And then when I hit puberty and sort of start to masturbate, I thought, my God, the last thing I want is my parents sort of bursting in here, but I do it really quickly and just get off and that's it. And we don't, maybe it sounds indulgent, but we don't, when we're younger, have the chance to spend an hour or two just luxuriating in our bodies, really. And I think that's a big deal. I think if we don't know ourselves and don't know what gives us pleasure, how can we possibly communicate to somebody else how they can pleasure us? So I think that's a big deal. Just understanding what we like and who we are and how we feel.
Yeah, that's essential. And that's often where, if a couple come, and it's normally couples that are newlywed, that come and they're finding blocks in their sex life. And the man, this is obviously generally, but men, because they're exposed to porn at a much younger age, know a lot more about sex from the porn, kind of sex that they see. So they're expecting sometimes fireworks and passion, and the woman hasn't got, hasn't been exposed to that. So the first thing is, they need to look after, what do they like, explore their own body, research their own things. And that comes back to what I was saying earlier. You can't tell someone, oh, let's try this or let's try that, if they don't know what they like. They need to be able to answer those questions and also to explore what they would like to try and things like that. So it's really important to know yourself and be comfortable with it.
Absolutely, and not feel embarrassed or awkward or any of those things, really. Because, like I say, lots of other people, lots of other countries seem to be much more relaxed about it. I mean, if you get across lots of Europe, if Italy or Germany, whatever, nudity in primetime TV is fairly normalized. Really, it's not. It's just a naked body. It's not nothing else. But in the UK, we still like to have our very repressive side of things. For sure. Well, what was it that I said at the beginning, that I thought you were going to be in Dubai, but now you're in Thailand? But you just said you're splitting your life between the two. So what was it, first of all, that drew you to Dubai? And then, if you could share a little bit about your journey in Thailand, because that sounds like a much deeper connection with clients.
Sure. So I was in the UK, I was 26, and I kind of, followed the life that people say, okay, go to university, get a job, get a mortgage. This is what's going to make you happy. And I was working, I ended up working in my hometown where I'm from, Southampton. And I found that after a few years in that job, everything just seemed the same. And people in my office, half the people would be watching TV every night, talking about EastEnders and Big Brother and things like that. And the other half would sit in the pub, the same bars, and have the same conversations. And I thought, God, there's got to be more to life than this. Like, this can't be it. And so luckily with my work at the time, I could transfer my job I had the choice of Dubai or to go to Australia. And then I thought Australia is really far from the UK and it might be the same. It might be exactly the same. So I thought I'll go for Dubai. So I didn't know anyone, never been here, never went to Dubai before.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And so I didn't even know what I was allowed to wear, or I didn't have a clue. But I went there, and then 18 years later, I'm still here half the year now. But last year I made the move to Thailand because I wanted to work with couples more deeply and individuals more deeply, and I wanted to be in nature. And I thought that I sometimes have couples where I give them the tools on this is what you're going to do this week, or this is what you're going to be doing over the next few weeks or month. And they're really keen. They really want to do it. And then life happens. They have visitors coming and staying for a few weeks. One person gets a cold. One person's got to go on a business trip. The nanny's sick, Dubai expat life that's always busy and evolving. And so they couldn't work on it. And they also had lots of things that they needed to discuss. And again, they were blocked. So I decided to get a small retreat here and offer people the therapy in 5 days or 7 days healing space for them so that they could come and have the results. And I sometimes also work with plant medicines, and this is a nicer environment and a safer environment to do that in. So that can really help people to connect to themselves, to let go of trauma or different things, and it ignites more compassion, more empathy, things like that. So it's a journey.
It absolutely is, and an amazing one. And I think we both know if you went back to your office tomorrow, even if it wasn't the same people, they'll still be talking about EastEnders, Big Brother, and sitting in the same seats in the pub, which, and depending on your beliefs, we only get one go at this. It does seem a shame. So, but on Australia, so my wife's Australian,
okay,
and so we're off there in a few weeks again. So that's the one thing with this. They're in Melbourne, which is right the sort of southwest part of Australia. It is a long way from anywhere else. So even from Thailand, it's like 7 or 8 hour flight. It's a long way. It's an amazing place, but I think it's like a cross between the UK and the US. They're heavily influenced by US television shows and things. They have a very direct view of life, again, very sort of generalized. But I do think there is still a lot of British type repression there, because a lot of people that are there do come from British stock at one point or another. So it's not different. But I think, going to Dubai, and even going to Dubai 18 years ago, I guess a huge amount's changed in 18 years in Dubai. I mean, I've been, I think I first went there about 10 years ago, and I've maybe been every 18 months or so since. But it has changed a heck of a lot in terms of its popularity and demand for people that are there.
It's definitely changed. Yeah, it's got busier and there's more availability for nightlife and things like that. And there's more places that have opened up, definitely. But what I really love about the culture in Dubai is the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
If I said to them, right, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a relationship therapist, and this is, other people would be like, what are you doing? That's not going to work. No one's going to pay for this. You can't do this. And in Dubai, it's like, go for it. You can do it. And people, so that's more encouraging, more open. And it's so interesting. You're meeting people from all walks of life. You're meeting people that are passionate, that want to grow themselves, that want to better their life, to better themselves. So it's a community of really forward-focused people, really. And the conversations are interesting because people are doing different things and pushing themselves and growing themselves. So that's what I love about Dubai. And to me, when I go back to Dubai from Thailand, it really feels like home, like I spent all my adult life there, really. So I miss my adult life there.
And then Thailand feels more of an intense, deep experience. But it's absolutely true. And you were saying before about, we don't get better at things unless we practice. And you wouldn't necessarily just get up off the couch and say, right, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow. You wouldn't assume you could do that. But we do metaphorically get up off the couch, go to bed and have sex and think it's either going to be, we either think it's going to be great, or we think, well, it's just what it is, really. And you mentioned porn before, and I talked to a couple of adult content creators, and both of them were saying that they would hate to think of porn as being somebody's education. They see it much more as entertainment, where it's entertainment. It's like a film, it's like a TV show. It's just something to watch and enjoy, really, depending on what you like. But watching it for entertainment, because I guess if you're, I think some stat in the UK now says that over half of 13-year-old boys have seen porn. I think something like 25% of 11-year-olds have seen porn. And if you're at that age, then you're not really, because a lot of us adults struggle, you're not really understanding what our relationship's all about. So if your education is that all women are hairless, well, apart from on their heads, all men have, big cocks, and women are happy to have 2 or 3 partners at a time, then when you get to reality, it's like, oh, this is what I expected. Why am I staying hard for an hour or 2 hours, whatever? So it's hard, isn't it? Because like I said, we don't talk about it in general terms. So where else are you going to go to? But when I was younger, porn was a magazine, and there's a picture of a naked woman, and that was, oh my God, this is amazing. Whereas now, there's so many variants of porn. You can see and experience anything from anywhere, but it's not real life. It is an illusion. A lot of younger people growing up, perhaps not thinking it's real life, but it certainly influences how they behave and what they expect from sex.
It's their first sexual experience, and together they've got married, and the men are upset because their wife isn't making a lot of noises, isn't really excited, isn't dressing up in all this sexy lingerie for them and wearing high heels and lipstick when they get in from work, seducing them. So yeah, that can be the challenge. Also, as I mentioned before, I work a lot with cheaters and help cheaters to understand why they've done what they've done, and really support them. And sometimes what I find is boys that have been using porn to help them with their emotions when they're feeling frustrated or angry or upset at 11 years old, and sometimes even younger, any challenges, that will be their relief. They will have they'll go and masturbate as a relief to help them with their emotions, and then they become addicted to that dopamine. They become addicted to porn. They become addicted to self-pleasure to deal with their challenges, and also wanting to be seen, that attention. So, and often what I find with porn and porn addiction in particular is that the level needs to keep increasing. So if you're watching that at 11, what are you going to be watching at 14? What are you going to be, it just escalates, and it leads to a lot of cheating as well, unfortunately, because watching a movie then isn't stimulating you, isn't doing enough. It's just constantly pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, I guess it's like any addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol, whatever, we need more and more to get the same sense of feeling. So have you worked with trying to help people break that addictive cycle and get away from using that, as opposed to having it as part of the healthy part of their relationship?
Porn, you mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of people find definitely a detox for at least 30 days minimum, sometimes longer, to break that association. Because what happens is, when we consistently give ourselves like a dopamine, like high hit consistently, because our brain likes to be balanced, it will lead to a deficit. So people then feel that they need it even more, because they need more dopamine just to get to the normal level. So having a detox will help the brain to reset those levels, and finding healthy ways to increase your dopamine. So exercising, ice baths, hugging, those kind of things. And also it definitely helps the intimacy. So sometimes people need hypnotherapy to help them, to tell them that they're done with it, they're through, because they can have the greatest intentions. Right, I'm going to stop watching porn for a month, but it's really a struggle. They'll get really agitated, really stressed, can't sleep, feel like they need it. It's like any addiction. We tell ourselves, oh, it's going to help me. It's going to help me sleep. It's going to help me relax. It's a benefit.
Yeah.
And then you've brainwashed yourself into believing that you need it and that's the solution. And then when you're in those times of stress or anxiety or whatever it is, your mind just says, oh, this is the solution. So people have to break free from that. And then the intimacy in the relationship can be rebuilt. But of course, sometimes people with the porn addiction, when they stop, then they'll want to use sex in the relationship as a relief instead. And no one wants to have sex with someone if you're just going to be used as their sexual relief. And that's, so it's about finding, again, like healthy ways and dealing. I think a lot of us, we have our escape patterns, whatever that is, and we want to escape pain. And it's helping people actually to be okay with sitting with the pain. And when you actually allow yourself to feel that pain, to feel that hurt, to feel that uncomfortableness, then you can start to heal it, to express what negative thoughts or beliefs you're having about yourself. Or then you're going to be able to move through it and learn and to grow. But we're so good at escaping that actually feeling our feelings sends us into a panic. And that's why people will just do anything to avoid them these days.
Yeah, I was listening to something last night, not about sex and intimacy. I can't remember what it was about now, but it was sort of saying that I think as we go more and more into the digital age, and we always have our phones with us typically, that we've almost forgotten how to be bored, and not bored as in we want nothing to do sort of thing, but just to sort of sit with our own thoughts. Because if you look at anybody on the train or on the bus or even walking along, or they always have their phone in their hand or listening or doing something on it. They just do, and they're scrolling through something and getting these like mini micro dopamine hits from seeing, I don't know, somebody fall over or a funny cat video or whatever. And there's some research from Cambridge. It had like 18 to 25-year-olds who were also going to a room and sort of sit for like an hour with no stimuli at all. But there was a big red button on the desk that they could hit if they desperately couldn't avoid it, and the electric button would give them a mild electric shock. And something like 79% of them hit the button because they needed or thought they needed some sort of external stimuli, that they couldn't sit with their own thoughts for an hour, which is crazy in a way. Because I mean, when I was younger, it was, I don't know, we had TV, we had books, we had a radio, and yes, we didn't like to be bored. But when we were out from the house, we weren't typically walking or listening to things. We weren't sort of sat on the sofa doing something else whilst trying to watch TV. And I think, sometimes people just find it hard to sit with their own thoughts. And I'm not sure whether that's because we fear what we might hear, or we're not sure what to do with those things. But just sitting, not necessarily saying meditating or being mindful or so, but just sitting for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes with our own thoughts. People find that really hard, I think.
Yeah, and it's because we're just so used to it now. We're so used to that constant stimulation. But I find, especially in the evenings, even just looking at it a few times, it can create stress sometimes when you're looking at messages you need to reply to or emails and things like that. And so when I realized that, I'm like, right, now I'm going to put it off now and try to have a few hours without it. And another thing you can do to test yourself is really be in a queue in a shop, wait for something and not look at it. Just be, because I think it's important to build those muscles of just being with ourselves. And it's a concern for the future generation. And it's like, actually, that's one of the main differences that I've noticed when I first started doing this relationship work. Mobile phone use, one person complaining about their partner on the phone was, probably 1 in 4 couples. It was popular, but it wasn't every couple. But now every single couple that I work with, there's one person or both of them that are saying, you're on your phone too much, you're on Instagram too much, you're working too much, you're always on your phone, and it's affecting the relationship. So it's every single couple now. So it just shows you how much it has changed and how it does impact our relationships. And I think it's really important for couples, if they're finding that struggle, to have a rule around it. Some couples I work with, they'll agree, okay, 2 nights a week, mobile free. We'll put our phone in another room. We watch TV together. We're engaged together. Some couples say no phones in the bedroom. Let's just go to sleep naturally and have an alarm clock like we used to. And other couples, it's are saying, okay, at dinner times, there's no phones, or when the children are home from school, the first 2 hours, 5 till 7, no phones, or no phones in the morning. It's just if you don't make those kind of rules and agreements around it, just saying I'm going to be on my phone less is really difficult, because we're so pulled into just keep checking our phones.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I guess 50 years ago, the archetypal sort of sexual encounter would have you'd have sex, and then you would roll over and have a cigarette. I think now people roll over and just pick up their phones, and it doesn't make it feel very nice, really, because somebody's immediately wanting to get out of where they are and actually be somewhere else on their phones, which is hard. One of the things that always intrigues me is in a role like yours. In your role, you obviously hear a lot of difficult things. People come to you with sexual trauma that might be unrealized, unexpressed. So you're dealing with handling some very, very sensitive issues. How do you look after and sort of nourish your own mental well-being? So you don't want to carry those things with you, because that doesn't help you or the client, but you want to turn up in any situation in life as the best version of yourself. How do you protect yourself?
Sure, that's a really great question. And I think what helped was 20 years ago when I first, longer than 20 years ago, when I was in the UK, I was a volunteer for the Samaritans.
Okay.
And on that helpline, and after every session at the beginning and after every shift, which would be 3 or 4 hours, you would need to call someone. And first of all, you need to talk to the person that was also a volunteer at that time and talk through, are you okay? Have you got anything you want to share? Talk about it. And then you'd call the supervisor and say, we're okay, we've talked through. And, you would have these check-ins, and you sort of do this. And so what I learned from that, and I was there for 3 years, in my own therapy, then I kind of do like a sort of check-in with myself. Am I okay? How was that? How's my energy? What do I need to talk to anyone about it? Am I okay? Most of the times I am, but sometimes obviously things the only times when it does affect you is if it triggers something in you that you haven't yet resolved, or it brings up something that perhaps you need to work on. So if I do get triggered because, maybe that's triggered something in me, then I'll then, book a therapy session for myself. And those kind of things. But on a general basis, with the energy transfer and things, sometimes I'll shower quite a few times a day. If it's been a really heavy session, changing your clothes, having a shower, it can just sort of refresh you. I do yoga and other sort of spiritual practices that help me as well. But also it's listening to my body, which I didn't used to do as much in my 20s or 30s. I used to just keep pushing myself, and but now as I'm in my 40s, when I'm tired, that's it. I'm tired. I'm taking time off. I'm relaxing. I'm much better taking care of myself. And I think that's something I've been working on for a long time.
It's really important, isn't it? We've hopefully it's changing a little bit. We've also often had a thing in the UK and the US, not for the countries where, whether it's work or anything else, we sort of get applauded for like pushing through, not calling in sick, and just getting on with it and doing it, and a very sort of sexist term, sort of manning up and getting on with it. But I do think it's so important to do what you said. And I think the sort of somatic side of things with the body, and recognizing that the mind and body are different elements, and the body holds on to things. It took me a long time to learn that. I was always in my head, and sort of I went to therapy and sort of trying to get my head straight, if you want to phrase it like that. But then I felt that this is okay, but I'm really feeling this in my gut or in my shoulders or in my back. It never seemed to sort of pass through the body. And I think the whole notion, we're learning more and more, I think that the body does hold on to things.
Definitely.
It's sometimes really hard to get that release, but I hope more and more therapists and experts are linking the two, and it's not, you can't just explore somebody's mind. You've got to help them help them work it through the body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, when I work with people, the first thing that what they tell me the story, and as they're telling me the story, if they get activated, I'll say, right, they can close their eyes or they can keep them open, whatever most comfortable. Where do you feel that in your body? Well, and then what's the sensation? Like you said, okay, burning in the stomach, let's say, shoulder tension, throat tension. Okay, let's breathe into that. And then you would say, if it's got any words, sometimes, words will come up that it wants to say, or what's the feeling there? Okay. And you'll be surprised. Some people feel that there's anger there, and then they feel like sadness, or I'm not good enough. And then quite often a memory will come up, and it's a memory that's stored in that body. It's a feeling that's stored in the body. So yeah, it's so important to work with the body and not just focus on what you're thinking and how to change those thoughts consciously, because then people are just, it's really difficult to just change your thoughts without doing some deeper work. And then people unfortunately think, okay, well, I'm not good at this therapy. I'm not able to stop these thoughts, which of course none of us can stop our thoughts. We can choose which ones we grab and play over and over and over, but we can't choose our thoughts. So then they think it's not working for them, and then they give up, which is really sad. So yeah, it's so important to go into the body, and especially in this kind of area in relationships, because we carry a lot of relationship wounds from our childhood, whether you even if you had a great parents, really loving environment, any interaction where you didn't feel supported or loved, or bullying at school or anything, can be stored in the body. And it's just so important to look at us as a whole. Definitely.
Yeah, I did some work on grief and literally exactly what you just said. And we had this conversation about, I could feel this mass in my stomach. It was black, it was shiny, and it felt cold, and it felt exactly like that. And it is a very, it's very quick. You sort of feel these things very, very quickly and give a name to them, like you say, and then explore what does it make you feel, and how does it make you, what sensations are you feeling, all those things. And I think it's I think holding on to those things from childhood that we haven't even remembered. I have very, very few memories from pre-teenage years, but I can tune into the feelings a bit more now. But actually a memory of doing this, and this, and you think, well, you sort of mask the memory so it doesn't, you protect yourself, I guess. But it's and you want, I think exploring it with you or somebody in the similar profession is so important, because it's, if my car's making a funny noise, I don't open up the bonnet and try and fix it. I might open the bonnet and look at it and think, I've no idea what any of this stuff does. And it's the same with our minds, really. And I was saying the other day, we happily spend £1,000 on a new phone every year. But if you say to somebody, right, so okay, we're going to sort of every year spend £1,000 on our mind and our body and therapy. But what? £1,000? Are you crazy? It's weird, isn't it? That we'll spend money on something external to us, but actually on ourselves, you'd hope the most important thing that we have. Yeah, we struggle with it. I hope that gets better. I hope people realize that actually investing in ourselves is the biggest and best investment you can make, really. I did want to ask you a little bit about hypnotherapy. How did that come into what you do? And because some people hear hypnotherapy and think hypnotism, and how does hypnotherapy work with some of the clients that you have?
Sure. So I got into hypnotherapy because I was at a point in Dubai, just going through a breakup, really low, really struggling to sleep. And I was searching for sleep help, and then I found someone said, oh, hypnotherapy can really help. So I got Paul McKenna, there's I Can Make You Sleep hypnotherapy track, and it worked wonders. It worked for me straight away. I was just like, this is brilliant. This was now about 17 years ago. And then I was a smoker at the time. And so I thought I'd try his quit smoking hypnotherapy. Again, it worked. So I haven't smoked since then, about 17 years ago. And so I was like, wow, this really, really works for me. And I wonder if I can change every area of my life. So I started doing, buying lots of different hypnotherapy tracks and finding great shifts. And so then I decided to study it. And then I bring it into my practice. So anytime people are struggling to let go of beliefs, anytime that people want to change a pattern and release an addictive habit, you can do a lot of change work when you're working with the subconscious mind, because it controls our thoughts, our feelings, it controls everything. So now I work with people where I create a hypnotherapy track for them based on what suggestions they want to put in place, what things they want to change. And then I give them the recording so that they can listen again and again and again. And where I use it most in my practice is for people who, in terms of the sexual side, sexual confidence, performance anxiety, areas like that. And then for relationships, I mainly use it for anxiety. Quite a lot of people have relationship anxiety. It could be that their partner's going to cheat on them, or that they are not safe in a relationship, or anything. It can be any kind of anxiety where people just want these thoughts, and these thoughts are often our protector parts. So I'll do the traditional therapy with hypnotherapy kind of process, where we go into the body and talk to those parts that are just trying to protect you. But also sometimes it needs extra help to just remind yourself, I'm safe, I'm not a child now, I'm okay in this relationship, I don't need these warnings. And it can be really powerful. And it can do a lot of great work changing those thoughts. As I mentioned earlier, it can be difficult to try and change your thoughts consciously. Whereas if you sleep to half an hour with a track playing that's telling you, you can handle this, you're confident, you're good at this, all those things that you need to hear, you're lovable, you're worthy, you've got this, it really does go in. And then that people just feel better, they feel lighter, they feel happier, they feel more confident. And the more targeted it is, the better as well, of course. So that's how I find it as an extra tool to boost someone and to help them shift negative thought patterns.
I love the idea that you create them bespoke for individual people. How cool is that? It's and this so many things are generic, but I think I used to smoke, so if anything sort of proves something's worth, if it can stop people smoking, then that's it really, because it's so hard, isn't it? I managed to stop about just over 20 years ago, but it's just doing it without somebody explaining why and stuff. It's that whole subconscious thing. It's I think find it fascinating. And Paul McKenna and Alan Carr in the UK, they're massive over here now in terms of people embracing it and things. When you have people that come to you said before about people that might be having their first experiences, just got married, and maybe one of them's watched porn, and maybe one of them hasn't, and they come to you and they're like, this just isn't what I expected, and maybe they haven't been exposed to too much, and they've been brought up maybe in a fairly closed household and closed society. How do you, because you can't sort of throw them at the deep end and have them swinging from trapezes in the bedroom or whatever. How do you sort of gently break down those sort of barriers or those things that they've been told are dirty or wrong, so they can have a fulfilling sex life?
Sure. So it's really important, that conservative background, or that lack of knowledge about anything. So first of all, if they're feeling, if there's like religious trauma or blocks or shame around it, then working with them individually to change, first of all understanding, what do you believe about sex, what do you believe about your body, how would you like to be in sex, what's your goals, working from their goals, and they're going at their pace is really important. And finding out to them, what do they what's blocking them. And sometimes people do share, okay, I feel sex is dirty, sex is bad, this is what they will grow up to tell. So working through that individually, and then on the sex side, then I recommend a few books and say, look, you can try and read these books, a few documentaries, and what we were talking about earlier, exploring yourself, and these books actually guide you how to do that, and taking it slow, and also taking the pressure off. So I'll say to a couple, okay, well, why don't we just, say that for your intimacy for the moment, you're going to lie naked together, touch each other, kiss each other. And if penetrative sex happens, great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. You're just getting used to, because sometimes it's just getting used to being comfortable in your own body, being naked, lying together naked. And so I'll do, suggest exercises like that to just build their comfortableness with their bodies, with being naked with one another and exploring each other without the pressure. And the same with, with the girls, to say, right, don't have the penetrative sex as a girl, don't have, right, we both need to have an orgasm. Just be like, we're just going to explore and see what happens. And when you take the pressure off, it's far better for the couple to enjoy it. If not, then it becomes a pressure. It becomes then something that your mind subconsciously wants to avoid. And that's what I've seen with couples. I've had couples where one person is scared sexually, and they will, they promise their husband or their wife, right, we're going to have sex. We are going to start having sex. We are going to do this. And then they start to feel physically ill. Their mind will manifest a headache, a cold. And then as soon as they say, right, we're not having sex, and the other person agrees, the headache goes, the stomach goes, they feel perfectly fine, because so we have to work through these mental blocks and take the fear out of it as much as possible. Definitely. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely wonderful advice. And I think we get the same as we get older. So I'm sort of mid-50s now. And as men get older, it's harder to get an erection, it's harder to stay hard for longer, and all those things. And if you have in your head, as a lot of us sort of did when we were younger, that sex is penis and vagina, and sex is orgasms, or the man comes and that's the end of it. It's finished now. And if we get to bed and they think, I really want to have sex tonight, and I can't get an erection, or it doesn't stay hard, or whatever, then they sort of think, okay, we can't be intimate now, and that builds up and builds up. So next time I think, oh gosh, it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again. And you find yourself sleeping further and further apart in the bed, and you sort of stop all those little intimate things. And I think it's like you said, it's those little, if you can take off the pressure, and it's same for men and women in very different ways. A lot of women, when they get to sort of my age or a tiny bit younger, they start going through perimenopause and then menopause, and they feel different about their bodies and things. They feel a bit more uncomfortable, and it's recognizing that, how amazing can it be to kiss somebody for 5 minutes, to give somebody a massage, to just hold somebody, all those things. That is sex, really. And I think that's what I think is really important, to almost deprogram ourselves from sex. When you're younger, you have those very, very visceral questions like, so did you give it to her? Did you do it? Did you come? And all those things that are very direct, aren't they? But sort of say, did you spend 5 minutes kissing her? Did you stroke her back? So that you just never hear that, really. But I think, as a man, as you get older, you have some, and yes, there's medicines, you can take all those sort of things, you can do things for it. It's not, you shouldn't live with any erectile dysfunction. You shouldn't, because it can be treated. But sometimes you're just not as rock hard as you were when you were 20. But you can still be intimate, can't you?
And what came up to me when you were explaining that, sharing that, was and it's about that communication, saying that, I can't, get it strong tonight, but I would still love to hold you and to kiss you, and feeling comfortable with that. I think a lot of people will try to avoid that, and then, and again, carry that shame. And it definitely, I find, and sometimes I do hypnotherapy for that sexual performance, and it's just, again, reinforcing the positive beliefs, because the more people get that performance anxiety, then the more it just keeps sabotaging them. And the more they think about what they don't want to think about, or it's not going to work, then unfortunately it doesn't work. It's like they're telling their mind, don't work, so yeah.
And I will freely admit this. I had a stage where I was finding that quite hard. So I would almost intentionally sort of pick a small argument before bed. So it's not going to happen tonight because we just argue with each other. It's like, okay, it's terrible, isn't it? Rather than actually having a conversation about it, or just doing something about it. Maybe I'll cut that bit out.
I think that's it's because of that stereotypical. All men should be up for sex all the time. Men are great at sex. Men want sex all the, and it's like, no, actually not. I work with a lot of couples where the men have a much lower libido than the women.
Yeah.
And to be saying, oh, that's not manly, that's not normal, there's something wrong with you, it's really hard.
Yeah.
because that's what they face. And it's like, well, I just don't have a strong libido as you know, as what the stereotypical man has. But they still want to cuddle and to hug and, you know, those things. So.
And you've been very generous with your time. And just one last question I really have to ask you. So you made this really wonderful step of palm trees out the window with being in Thailand now. So what does I guess two things really. So what do you think the future holds for you personally, and then what do you feel the future holds professionally for your practice and for what you do?
So now I've moved to Thailand half the year or most of the year. I'm definitely I would definitely want to be staying here. And I really enjoy working with people more intensively in a retreat setting. And I also enjoy working with the plant medicines. I find that really helpful in opening people up and getting people into their body. So it's definitely going to be here. But I still really love going to Dubai and seeing my friends and my clients there. So I'll still be doing trips there. So I can see things now. I've made this move here only last year, that it's going to continue the same for me. Yeah, at the moment, which I'm happy about, because I don't like too much change. And the change was hard, actually. You know, the first few months settling lived in Dubai for 18 years and moving here, it was a shock. And now I'm in a really good place again. And so I think won't give myself any massive changes for a while.
It looks like you're very happy, which is good. Thank you so much for your time and your openness. So I'm really looking forward to listening back. I think you said a lot of really useful and practical things. And I put lots of links into the notes so people can find where to find you and look at your material. And there's lots and lots of good stuff on your website. You're very generous with what you give away. So thank you for that.
Great.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks very much. It was really a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.